January 23rd, 1984. It was a day that changed my life forever.
The muscle, the moral courage that built the greatest, freest nation the world has ever known.
Ronald Reagan was our president, and there was trouble brewing in Iran. I was just a kid, but I knew who was behind it. His name was the Iron Sheik.
From Tehran, Iran, weighing 258 pounds, the Iron Sheik.
They have a lot of hate in their hearts for this man.
You see, Reagan may have freed the hostages, but the Sheik still had the championship belt. There was only one man that could save us.
I am a real American.
From Venice Beach, California, the incredible Hulk Hogan.
And the Hulkster rips off that shirt.
But 3 minutes into the match, Hulk Hogan was locked in the dreaded camel clutch.
It's over for the Hulk.
This move would snap the back of a normal man, but this wasn't a normal man. This was Hulk Hogan, and he was fighting for our country. The Hulkster got out of the camel clutch with the Sheik on his back, dropped the big leg, and he pinned the Sheik. Hulkamania was born, and the message was clear. You don't mess with Hulk Hogan, and you certainly don't mess with America.
I must break you.
Look what happened to Ivan Drago. He tried to mess with America, and Rocky kicked his ass. And then when the Vietnamese were holding POWs, Rambo went in and he kicked their ass.
And in the spirit of Rambo, let me tell you, we're gonna win this time.
Then came Arnold Schwarzenegger, the ultimate ass kicker. I never saw Gone with the Wind or Casablanca, but I can tell you every line of every Arnold movie. Crush the enemy, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
And they go bam, and they're all oiled up, and their veins are popping out.
Better, stronger, faster.
I was just 12 years old, and there was an explosion of ass kicking in America.
And like our Olympic athletes, we set our sights on the stars and we're going for the gold.
I wanted to tear off my shirt and be ripped, tanned, and larger than life. But in reality, I was a fat, pale kid from Poughkeepsie. You see, I come from an overweight family. My parents were always a little on the heavy side. I couldn't ask for a better mom. She did everything for her 3 boys. We went to church 3 times a week, and she even taught Sunday school. My dad was always there for us, too, and he even coached our Little League teams. I love my dad, but he was never really my hero. I didn't want to be like him. I wanted to be like Arnold. Problem is, I was always too small, too short. People would say, "Hey, Little Bell, what's up, Little Bell?" And I didn't want to be Little Bell. I wanted to be Big Bell. My older brother Mike was a little chubby, and every morning when he went to school, he'd get on the bus and the kids would call him Pugsley. He didn't like that too much, so he beat some of those kids up. That's where he got the nickname Mad Dog. Mark was the baby of the family. He had a hard time in school. He was separated from his friends and put in a class with the special kids. It didn't make him feel very special at all. He hated school, so he spent all of his time playing sports. He'd come to the dinner table dripping with sweat. Mad Dog and I nicknamed him Smelly. So I was the short kid, Mad Dog was the fat kid, and Smelly had a learning disability. Okay, I get it. We're never gonna make it, right? But for us, we knew muscles were the answer, and the Hulkster showed us the way.
Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American.
So we started training in the basement. We'd body slam each other, drop elbows, DDTs, double noggin knocker, the abdominal stretch, the iron claw, the Boston crab, the pile driver. And when Mad Dog was too tough for me, I would break out the steel chair. My mom's brother John was a bodybuilder, and he gave me and my brothers our first muscle magazines and showed us how to work out. And the next Christmas, instead of video games, we got the Hulkamania workout set.
Are you ready to feel the power? Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Power Team!
Mad Dog became the captain of the football team, and Smelly and I both started competing in powerlifting.
Chris Bell is up next at 425.
Soon I was the strongest kid in my high school. Then I broke the New York State record. And that's when I first got accused of using steroids.
Other kids your age, they look down at you or have that anomaly, or you guys can't be as strong without drugs, you must be taking them.
I knew guys who used them, but they were losers. If my heroes didn't need steroids, then neither did I. By the time I was a senior, I was one of the strongest kids in the country. Hulk Hogan was always talking about
Hanging and banging down at Gold's Gym, Venice Beach, brother.
I thought, that's where Arnold trains. That's where I need to be. I was going to be an American hero, and I was willing to do whatever it takes. It's been 15 years since I got to California, and now I'm 33 years old. When Arnold was 33, he had already won the Mr. Olympia 7 times. Stallone had already made Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, and the Hulkster had already been the heavyweight champion 4 years in a row. I really thought muscles were going to be the answer, but all they got me was a job selling gym memberships. I still train every day at Gold's, but the only thing left of Arnold is a cheap mural on the wall, and a bunch of guys telling stories about the old days. Like my buddy Paul.
It's changed a lot in all these years, you know.
Changed a lot? How long have you been here?
Since 1980. Of course, Arnold was on the scene, and Arnold, nobody had ever seen anybody that looked like Arnold. Sylvester Stallone had just done the Rocky movies, and he was the type of guy that I could relate to.
Paul even got a chance to work with Sly in Over the Top.
I should be able to blow them away real easy.
I couldn't believe the dream was coming true.
And did you get a chance to do it again?
No, but I'm hoping to get back in shape to be able to make that a reality. You can be on the street one day, and you can be in a penthouse the next. Anything's possible. This is my humble abode.
Your humble abode right here?
Yeah, it's...
So do you actually live in the van?
I actually live in... well, I sleep in it. Let's put it this way, yes.
You should sleep in it?
Yeah.
And then you train over here?
I train here, yeah. You would see vans like this. Guys would come from all over the world, sleep in their cars, this and that, anything to get a chance to train at Gold's Gym, because we had something special here.
What would you say to people that say, like, you know, the dream's over, man, you're 50 years old, like,
yeah.
What would you say to those people?
They're the ones that are short-sighted. Now, in 6 months, I could still be in the van, but if I can outlift everybody, I can out-squat them, out-bench them, out-deadlift them, who's the king? Guys like you and me can fulfill our dreams. We can train. Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
Is that gonna be me in 20 years? I did everything my hero said. I trained, I said my prayers, I ate my vitamins. Where did I go wrong? Hey. Good morning. How are you?
I always make the cookie bars because cookie bars are important.
What teams did you make these for?
I made them for Arlington football teams. First time ever they won a bowl game. They used to call them Rosie's Cookie Bars, and they really believe that they help them win all the games.
Would that be like performance enhancement?
It's not an enhancement. It's a little bit of sugar, which can get you going, carbs. But it's all natural ingredients. There's no steroids in here. Eating your mom's cooking is sort of comforting, don't you think?
Sure.
Things change, but the cookie bars remain. That's for sure.
My mom likes to think that the world is as pure as her cookie bars. But life isn't always like that. And a lot of things we grew up believing ended up not being true. First, I found out there's no such thing as Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. That kind of sucked. Then I saw this news report.
The Iron Sheik had been arrested recently, along with wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan, while driving along the Garden State Parkway. The Iron Sheik was charged with possession of cocaine and marijuana. What has interested most wrestling fans in this case is that the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw are known to be adversaries. So why were they traveling together?
Yeah, I thought these guys hated each other.
Wham! Right on the back of the Iron Sheik.
Was their feud all made up? Was wrestling fake? Who's left to believe in anymore? Well, at least I still had my heroes. Those guys would never let me down.
Today, Hogan admits the famous physique was the result of 12 years of steroids.
Truth is, all my heroes had a dirty little secret.
Hollywood actor Sylvester Stallone has been charged with importing bodybuilding drugs when he visited Australia last month.
Did you take steroids?
I took them, up until the competition.
I was always against steroids, and when I found out that all my heroes used them, I'd like to say it didn't bother me, but it really did. I can't imagine how my mom would feel if she found out that both of my brothers are on steroids right now. My older brother started using steroids when he went to play Division I football at the University of Cincinnati.
When I got to Cincinnati, the practices were so grueling, much more than what I expected. Coaches would say, you got to get bigger, you got to get stronger, you got to get faster.
Was it intimidating?
Oh, man, a lot different than I thought it was going to be.
He called me from Cincinnati and asked me for money for steroids. And I said, what do you need that for? He says, because I can't compete here. So I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. It sounds like drugs. He goes, it is drugs. And I say, well, I'm not going to send you money for drugs. If you want drugs, go get a job.
I remember at one point, I think you maybe came home for a break or you did something, and you told me, hey, come here, help me out. And you pulled down your pants, and you're like, you have to inject this into me. And I hated it, because I was totally against steroids. I hated it. And you're like, come on, just do it. You have to do it.
You got to help your big brother out, man. There was no decision at all. Everybody else that was doing well was on him.
Shortly after getting on the juice, Mad Dog quit college to pursue an even bigger dream.
Oh, look at that now. Here we go. Mike Bell.
I couldn't believe it. That was my big brother wrestling on TV. Mad Dog wanted to be a superstar, but he was what they call a jobber. That's the guy they pay to get beat up to make the other guys look good. He didn't care, though. He was going to get himself a contract and headline WrestleMania.
Why did you even come in the ring? You should have gone home, dummy.
But he never got the contract. And eventually, the WWE stopped calling.
Why did you think you didn't make it?
Probably mostly my own fault. I went from being a guy who used steroids to a guy who used steroids and pot, and I still needed to escape reality. So I started taking ecstasy, cocaine, acid, painkillers.
Mike Bell is where he does not need to be now. He's in the wrong corner, and he's paying the price.
Mad Dog always told me that he'd rather be dead than average. And when he thought his dream was over, he couldn't cope with the failure.
So I had a bottle of liquid lead, a bottle of NyQuil, and like 4 boxes of sleeping pills. I went down to the river, down by the railroad tracks, parked my car, took everything.
And he had tried to walk into he tried to walk into the Hudson River.
So did you take all the sleeping pills?
Everything.
The lead additive?
There's no way I should be alive right now. There's no way.
It's 10 years later, and despite everything that happened, Mad Dog is still trying to get that contract, trying to keep the dream alive.
I've been all over the world, from Singapore to Louisville, and it doesn't matter. You line them up, I'll knock them down.
I can see why you never made it. It's all right.
Mad Dog used to wrestle in front of a television audience of 10 million people every week. But tonight, he's wrestling at the Portuguese Men's Center in front of 200 people for about $50. And instead of wrestling Bret the Hitman Hart, he's facing Majito, and he's getting his ass kicked. My baby brother Smelly was always trying to keep up, and despite everything that happened to Mad Dog, he followed in his footsteps anyway, becoming a pro wrestler and using steroids.
The reason I decided to use steroids was simple. I just needed to get bigger. That was pretty much it.
But unlike when Mad Dog started using steroids, Smelly had a wife to consider.
When you got married, did you ever think that your husband would be injecting himself with something?
No, I mean, that didn't even enter in my conscious thought. When I first met him, he was against steroids. I mean, he was just like, you don't need to do it. I've never done them. I just don't believe in them. I
was pretty upset about it because I didn't want it to come to that. I was kind of scared. I didn't want to inject this oil into my body. I thought I was just, I thought I was weird.
He's not a huge guy, he's 6 feet if he's lucky. And so I knew that it was definitely going to help because, that's what it does, what steroids do. So make you bigger.
She basically said, do what you need to do.
Here's Jake with the daddy.
After their son was born, Smelly decided the life of a pro wrestler was not exactly what he wanted anymore.
Here's my little Jake in his swing. You know, looking back on it, I don't really know what the hell I wanted. Having a contract means that you belong to the WWE and you have to travel. I was married with a kid. I mean, that's really all I need. A house, a kid, and a wife, I'm set. 1, 2, 3.
They settled down in the suburbs, and Smelly even opened up his own gym. Yeah, my little brother gave up the wrestling dream for a respectable family life. But he didn't quite give up everything.
Now that I'm into it, I realize it's not really all that bad. I love steroids. I mean, I think I'll probably be on and off of them probably forever.
This is what you train for. This is what you do. Come on, boy!
I thought that we had an agreement that he did it for wrestling, now he's not wrestling anymore, so naturally I thought he would just stop.
In my mind, there's no excuse for not being as strong as you possibly can be. You do what you got to do to win.
Come on, Chris, let's do this now. Let's give it up for him. It's a lot of weight.
There it is. Come on now.
Smoke show. Come on, Chris.
Take it.
Nice try, Chris. Nice try.
If you are apprehensive about taking a steroid or you're apprehensive about trying some new methods, then maybe you're not cut out to be a champion.
In first place, Mark Bell.
I guess I'm not cut out to be a champion. Because I tried steroids, but I felt so guilty I had to stop.
You gonna win worst overall lifter?
And now I can't even compete in the sport I grew up loving. I mean, my baby brother just beat me by 130 pounds. We all grew up in the same house. So why are my brothers fine with steroids, but I'm not?
What would you say the differences are between the three?
Between the
kids?
three?
Yeah.
Well, I always kind of say it like this. You were in the middle of two guys that were very strapping, athletic, and you were tiny and short in stature. So I worked extra hard to make you feel extra special. One day I took you in your room out, and if you remember this conversation where I said, Christopher, what's the best part of an Oreo cookie? What is the best part of an Oreo cookie?
The middle.
The middle. That's right. So even though you have two sides of a cookie on this end, the middle part is the most delicious. Everybody wants the middle. They even made double stuff.
Yep, this is pretty much how it was growing up. Mom stayed at home with the kids while Dad wore a suit and tie and went to work. He was at IBM for 20 years until he was downsized. But now he has his own business doing taxes.
Everybody thinks that success in America is the amount of dollars that you have, and that's not true. The real true heroes are people who go to work every day and do their job and bring up their kids to the best of their ability.
I wanted to be Hulk Hogan. I wanted to be Arnold. I wanted to be Sylvester Stallone. Did you have heroes like that growing up when you were a kid?
Yeah, we did. We had heroes like Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, but I knew I could never aspire to it because back then, you grew up, you graduated, you got married, and you had kids.
Yeah, my dad had the American dream. You know, marry your high school sweetheart, buy a house, and take your kids to see the Yankees. But things are different now, and even baseball's changed from when my dad was growing up. And now when I think of baseball, I don't think about the Babe or Hammer and Hank. I think of steroids.
This one is a monster. It is here.
After the strike of '94, baseball was almost dead. But then Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa started smashing home runs, racing toward the single-season record. You see, about 1,000 years ago, Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in one season. And then when my parents were still kids, Roger Maris hit number 61. He was the home run champ for 37 years until Big Mac came along and crushed that record with 70 home runs, and baseball was saved.
Mark McGwire, you have just broken the home run record. What are you going to do next?
We're going to Disney World.
I guess Barry Bonds wanted to go to Disney World too, because in 2001, he smashed 73 bombs to break McGwire's record.
There's a new record holder.
See, baseball players used to be scrawny, but But now these guys were jacked, and it was cool. They started looking like pro wrestlers.
If you were to construct a home run hitter in a lab, put him together, he'd look like that.
Turns out that was kind of what was going on.
A man with ties to some big-name athletes has been charged with providing performance-enhancing drugs to the pros.
The guy with the pencil-thin mustache is Victor Conti. He used to be the bass player for Tower of Power. But when that career didn't work out, he did what any failed musician would do. He started selling undetectable steroids to athletes.
Will you name names?
Thank you. There will be a naming of names. Conti's files named over 250 athletes, including the home run king himself, Barry Bonds. And then something even crazier happened. Jose Canseco wrote a book. The surprise wasn't that he was literate, it's what he wrote about. He said he'd been taking steroids since '86, that 80% of baseball was on the juice, and that he'd personally injected his former Bash brother, Mark McGuire, in the ass.
But why, Mr. McGuire?
Do you want to know the terrifying truth? Or do you want to see me sock a few dingers?
Dingers! Dingers!
All right. Congress wants to haul a bunch of baseball players up to Capitol Hill to talk about steroids.
In 2005, Congress spent 151 days in session. They spent 8 of those days debating steroids in sports. That's more time than they spent on national health care, why the levees broke in New Orleans, and more than ending the war in Iraq. Apparently, the United States Congress takes this whole national pastime thing kind of seriously.
I'm a baseball fan. I always have been.
Let me just start by saying that I am a huge baseball fan.
For me, baseball is not a game, it's a passion.
We have every right to be concerned that the national pastime and all that it represents has been threatened by the selfish actions of a few.
There's something simply un-American about this.
If using steroids makes the Bash Brothers un-American, what does that make the Bell Brothers?
Congressman Kanjorski, you think that this is not a matter for the U.S. Congress to be deliberating?
I just don't think it's necessary. Why are we just going to call 7 people, and of what importance are they? In the last 52 years, we've only done it 25 times. 14 of those times were by the Un-American Activities Committee.
Are you now, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Well, sir, I'm not here to talk about the past.
I have never used steroids, period.
Did you know that other players were using steroids?
I have never seen a syringe. I've never seen steroids.
But in locker room gossip, you may not have seen it. People talk, right? This guy's doing something, that guy's doing something.
Now, Mr. McGuire, would you like to comment on that? You don't want to comment? Are you taking the fifth?
This is about values. It's about our culture. It's about who we define ourselves to be. When we want to define to a foreign country what we're about, and you're going to show a film, what would you go show?
Hey, how about Rocky IV? There's nothing more American than that. The big Russian trains in a high-tech facility with a whole team of scientists and trainers. And of course, he takes steroids. Meanwhile, Rocky's out there lifting logs, chopping wood, training in a barn, the all-natural way. Because only commies would take steroids, right? Sure, Sly. Whatever you say. Truth is, steroids were the secret weapon that helped America fight the Russians on the Olympic battlefield. And it all began here, York Barbell in Pennsylvania.
When you were an Olympic coach, did you see a lot of steroid use going on?
Much.
Yeah.
Much.
Smitty's 83, one of the old-timers. He was the coach of the Olympic weightlifting team back then.
Was it ever thought of as cheating at that point?
No. No, because we figured everybody was taking. We figured even Steven.
Smitty told me the story about how anabolic steroids were first introduced to the U.S. Olympic team. It was the late 1950s, and the Russians were dominating America in the space race and at the Olympics. But one night, the Russian coach got drunk and told the American coach they'd been injecting their athletes with steroids. The American coach raced home and developed an even more powerful steroid, specifically for Team USA. So if steroids actually helped America beat the commies, how did it get such a bad rap?
Last week, former NFL defense lineman Lyle Alzado told NBC News that steroids were the cause of his inoperable brain cancer.
How long were you on steroids?
Most of my pro career. You know, I played 16 years. And it got me where I wanted, but also got me very sick.
Lyle Alzado went from being the toughest son of a bitch in the NFL to being a sad, dying man. Everything I saw on TV taught me that steroids kill.
Some alarming news about steroid use tonight.
A drug bust in Phoenix, Arizona. Not for heroin or cocaine, but for something just as dangerous.
Health damage from steroids can include heart, joint, and reproductive problems.
This is a drug that kills.
But what happens is these retarded idiots that give us the news, these talking heads that babble on TV, give us this rhetoric that comes from not one single expert. And they say ridiculous things like steroids will kill you, they'll rot your kidneys, they'll give you cancer, they'll do all these horrible things that are just not true.
John Romano is a senior editor of a bodybuilding magazine, and he disagrees with what his media colleagues think of steroids.
Well, how come we hear constantly in the news that people are dying from taking steroids?
Show me the bodies.
Lyle Alzado.
Lyle Alzado didn't die from steroids. I trained with him for 2 years. He didn't die from steroids. I know he died from a brain tumor.
I don't know of any of my colleagues that link his central nervous system lymphoma to his use of steroids.
Dr. Charles Yasalis has published over 70 articles on the use of steroids and is one of the top experts in the world on drugs and sports.
Are steroids killing people?
Good question. They've been used in medicine since the late 1930s. I hope we haven't been purposely killing people. Can they be used safely? Yeah.
These drugs are a boon in the medical profession. They're a miracle drug for people with, muscle wasting. They are, a miracle drug for burn victims, for cancer patients, people recovering from surgery.
And for people with AIDS, like Jeff Taylor. Jeff has been fighting HIV for 25 years, and he says steroids saved his life.
Back in '92, I was down to 2 T cells and very sick. I developed PCP pneumonia. Both my lungs collapsed. I almost didn't make it. I came out of the hospital weighing 125 pounds. So I started researching and found a clinical trial in LA. It was studying Anavar, an old bodybuilding drug, to test how it worked in people with HIV. So I signed myself up, got a fairly high dose, and responded amazingly. I gained 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and I gained 300 T cells.
So these drugs have cognitive powers. If you're sick, they'll help you. If you're a healthy athlete, they'll kill you. How can you say that steroids are a national public health crisis when you have people dropping dead at a rate you can measure by the minute as a result of alcohol and tobacco?
According to the CDC, tobacco kills about 435,000 Americans every year. Alcohol kills about 75,000. And deaths from anabolic steroid abuse, 3. But steroids also show up in some other statistics, emergency room visits. But it's not exactly number 1 on the list. That would be alcohol. Or number 2, that's cocaine. Or number 3, that's marijuana. Gotta be top 10 though, right? Not quite. How about top 25? Top 100? Keep going. Try number 142. That's even after multivitamins.
Education is important, but what you have to watch out for is embellishing. If you look at reefer madness, it causes you to be a stark raving, murdering lunatic. Very funny to watch because it goes so over the edge.
The next tragedy may be that of your daughter, or your son, or yours.
Physicians and sports scientists have done that with the best of intentions in this area. Oh, steroids are going to cause you to drop over dead in your tracks and so on. And the athletes are looking around and say, geez, I haven't seen that many guys die.
Are steroids killing people?
Steroids clearly are killing people, both in the short term and in the long term.
Dr. Gary Wadler is an advisor to the World Anti-Doping Agency and the media's go-to guy when it comes to steroids.
We know it's been associated with stroke in young people, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it's been associated with heart attacks, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it increases clotting.
What bothers me is people like Dr. Gary Wadler, who's a physician, and going before Congress and saying these things. And when confronted, please produce a single article that shows any of this in any scientific way. Can't do it.
Dr. Norm Faust is a professor of medical ethics with a research focus on performance-enhancing drugs.
I'm not denying that there aren't some serious adverse effects from anabolic steroids. It's just that we haven't been able to demonstrate any of them. Maybe that's because we don't study them. One of the problems with the ban on steroids is that it's impossible to do the kind of research that would answer these questions.
Some purists would like to see those studies done. Well, I can assure you they never will be done. It'd be a totally unethical study to do. So we have to use the information we have at hand.
depression, convulsions, anxiety, jaundice, myocardial infarction, which is heart attack, eczema, abscess, vaginal pain, vaginal discharge. You want to know what I'm reading this from? What does that say?
Vitamin C.
Thank you. I mean, look, peanuts are dangerous. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
There are people that take a peanut, that have a peanut, and they go into anaphylactic shock. Okay? The airway closes up, that's it, they die. Now, does that mean that we ban peanuts and sue God for making them?
No.
Right. What we do is we say, okay, peanut warnings.
There is no safe drug. There is no safe drug that ever exists. There's always a benefit to risk ratio. You name the drug, X% of people will suffer adverse effects.
Do you feel any side effects ever?
Yeah, I've had some side effects, acne, hair growth. Some side effects that I've had are...
What do you mean by hair growth? On your head?
No, just on my chest and my back and stuff.
I never break out. My back doesn't break out. I don't get hairy from it. You know, yeah, I get a little testicular atrophy, but then they come back. I mean, you know, it's normal.
Your balls shrink?
Balls shrink.
But who needs them?
Who needs them?
What about testosterone? I have some friends who say it is like a wonder drug. It makes them feel great. It makes them feel, you know, frisky and young, and it's great for their skin.
The negative side effects would be my lovely singing voice. Hair like a monkey from my head to my toes. I mean, hair growing out places you don't even want to talk about.
I mean, I want to stay feminine.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I get so much work, is because I still look like a woman and, you know, I still have hard muscles.
In my experience, steroids are just going to make you more of whatever you are. If you're a jerk and you take steroids, you're a super jerk, right? You've seen that, right? You go beyond. You're an asshole.
I've never seen roid rage. I've never seen any difference in his personality or how he's with me, how he is with Jake. It hasn't done anything that all those after-school specials tell you that it's going to do.
Bryce, I gotta get bigger, man. Yeah, this might help. Steroids.
What is going on with you? Oh, damn it!
While I was visiting my brother and his family, they told me they were thinking of having another child, but that another possible side effect of steroids was on their minds.
If you couldn't have another kid, would it be something that you regret because you did steroids?
Yeah, if it was simply from that, yeah, I'd probably regret it. But there's a lot of things people regret in their life, so I'm not, you know, it's a decision I made, and it's a decision I'll have to live with, whatever the consequences are.
It's been 15 years since Alzado died.
Why did you lie to me?
I was afraid.
Looking back on Maria Shriver's interview, I can't help but wonder, why wasn't she asking the real questions? Like, is this gonna happen to my husband? Did she really believe Lyle? Or was this just the beginning of the steroid myth? And even though the experts know a lot more about steroids, you sure wouldn't know it from watching the news.
Tonight, one of the nation's most serious drug problems, and it's only getting worse. It's steroids.
Professional wrestler Chris Benoit killed his wife, 7-year-old son, and then hung himself. Why did he do it? Steroids found in the house.
Steroids cause suicidal tendencies.
They hallucinate. They hear voices.
Depression, paranoia, and
steroids could be the actual cause for the Benoit.
Speculation is running wild.
I think these drugs could affect one's mindset.
Now we know.
Testosterone found.
The steroid had steroids.
Let's cut through the crap. This is Steroids 101. First of all, the term steroids is often misused to describe any performance-enhancing drug, when in fact, many of these drugs are not actually steroids at all. So what are steroids? Well, steroids are synthetic versions of hormones that your body produces naturally. Like cortisone, that's a steroid. It signals the body to break down inflammation. Birth control pills are steroids too, made from the female sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone. But the steroids that get all the negative attention are anabolic steroids, made from the male sex hormone testosterone, which tells the body to increase muscle size and strength and helps you recover from workouts faster. Like any drug, anabolic steroids do have side effects, and if you abuse them, the side effects will be worse. For men, they can cause acne, hair growth, raise cholesterol, shrink your testicles, and lower your sperm count, which could even make you sterile. But all of these side effects are reversible when you go off the drugs. Otherwise, steroids don't cause baldness, but if it runs in your family, they might make you go bald faster. And they can also cause gynecomastia, or what the gym rats call bitch tits. For women, in addition to acne and hair growth, steroids can cause a deepened voice, menstrual problems, and can enlarge the clitoris, and some of these are not reversible. And for kids, some experts think steroids can stunt growth by closing growth plates prematurely, but that's actually never been proven. There's also no proof that steroids cause cancer, kidney failure, and only oral steroids in high dosages can cause liver problems. And it's true that steroids may be one of 1,000 risk factors that could lead to heart disease, but then again, low testosterone is another big risk factor. And roid rage? Steroids can increase aggression, but that only happens in about 5% of the population. And even then, they can't make you psychotic. And as for the long-term side effects, we don't know. No one's ever done those studies.
At what point do we say that a behavior is such that people just shouldn't be allowed to engage in it? I mean, we do allow people to do lots of things that can hurt themselves.
America's new junkies, plastic surgery addicts.
I've had like my eyes done, rhinoplasty, chin, cleft, pectoral implants, bicep implants, buttock augmentation, and those are the ones I can remember right offhand.
Common sense tells you this is dangerous and foolish. You wouldn't risk your neck in a trick like this. Common sense tells us that being shot out of a cannon is dangerous business. Handling dynamite, this too looks dangerous.
Whether it's bungee jumping or skydiving or black diamond skiing, all of them are fun to do, but would subject one to tremendous risks with no real necessity. So if we allow all of those other risks, why is it that we're taking this position with respect to anabolic steroids?
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Durr with his
1988, Seoul, Korea. A Canadian sprinter, Ben Johnson, defeated his arch rival, Carl Lewis, in the 100-meter sprint to become the fastest man in history.
It sure got our spirit up. Just great. Hey, Benny!
But 24 hours later, he tested positive for steroids, and they gave the gold medal to our guy, Carl Lewis.
There was a international uproar over the idea that this Canadian sprinter had gotten an advantage based on his use of an anabolic steroid for its performance effect. And Congress responded by holding some hearings.
Ben Johnson would not have been in the finals. He probably would not have been on the Olympic team had he not taken steroids.
Congress wanted to pass a law that would control steroids the same way as drugs like cocaine and heroin. And they called experts from the DEA, the FDA, and the American Medical Association. But they all testified that steroids should not be treated like illicit drugs. So Congress disregarded their experts, and in 1990, they passed the Anabolic Steroid Control Act, turning non-medical users into federal drug criminals.
This wasn't so much about health effects. It was really on what these things do that's good in the sense that they build muscle. They improve the way that people can perform. And that, in a sports context, was seen as the ultimate evil. If we took a pie chart of steroid use and we looked at what percentage of that pie is comprised of athletes, they would be a very, very, very small slice of that pie. The overwhelming majority of the pie is comprised of the recreational gym rat who's doing it purely for cosmetic reasons. The irony is that we've addressed a sports cheating issue by creating a law that affects all the folks who aren't cheating in sports.
One look at Gregory Valentino's arms, and you know something's going on. The 40-year-old is charged with criminal possession of anabolic steroids with intent to sell.
Some people may call Greg Valentino a freak and a felon. I call him a neighbor. He lives down the block from my grandma. He also happens to have the biggest biceps in the world.
Holy crap. Do you have difficulty with just sort of the regular things in life, like making a sandwich?
No. I can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Anybody want to challenge me? Let's do it.
I'll show you. Watch this. Oh! Come on, Greg. Oh! Told you I'm no Barry Bonds.
I'm a red meat man. I eat a lot of red meat.
Why do you think people in America are so uptight about steroids and steroid users?
Because they fear. They fear what they don't know. You know?
That's ugly. Who the hell would want to look like that? You know what I mean? I don't want to look like that.
Why'd you want to look like that then?
I mean, I like being big. I had small man complex, you know? And I'd be like, I don't want to be little, you know? I wanted to be taller, so I couldn't grow taller. So I grew wider.
Personally, like, I think in the picture you showed me, your
I look better.
Your arms look a lot better there than they look now, right? I mean,
Without a doubt.
Agree?
Without a doubt. I would rather look like that. Do you think girls look at me and go, oh my God, that's hot? They're like, that's fucking gross. I walk into a club and the hottest girl could be there with her boyfriend. And her boyfriend will see me and mush her in the face to get over to me just to say to me, like, dude, what the f***?
You're getting attention from the guys, not from the girl.
Oh, I don't give a shit. It's attention, you know what I mean? I can't explain it to you. It's like a mindset. Does that make sense or no? But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bam!
For myself, I'm kind of on the fence. I have two brothers, they're both taking steroids right as we speak right now. I don't know if I want people to think I'm not cheating, or to look at me and say, wow, you know, like, you really have a great build. You know, but do you think I should take steroids to get there?
I think steroids are as American as apple pie. We live in a society today that you got MTV and reality shows. Madonna's making out with Britney Spears, rap music and all that shit, and you're worried about steroids? Kids are like, F you, cop. F you, man. Playing video games like Grand Theft Auto where you're killing cops. That's worse influence, in my opinion, than steroids will ever be, than Barry Bonds hitting home runs. There's a big difference between a kid taking steroids, who's only had hair on his dick a couple years, as opposed to a grown man looking to perform better at a better level in sports. And where is Schwarzenegger in all this? I mean, he is the poster boy for steroids. He's the poster boy for, hey, look at me, look what I did. I came, I conquered, I kicked ass. That autobiography says he was doing it when he was 15, 16. Hey, he won the Mr. Universe at 19 years old. 19. Did you ever see what he looked like when he was 19? Do you think it was God-given genetics, or do you think that maybe he took the performance enhancers? A lot of people idolize these guys, whether it's a rock star, bodybuilder, movie star, whoever. And all of a sudden you get to meet them. And man, is it a letdown. Because they're never, ever what they appear to be. The guy you see in public like this has got the middle finger under the table going like this. It's never what you see is what you get. It's what you see is what they want you to see. Everybody idolized Schwarzenegger growing up. Everybody thought, man, I want to lift weights and live a pure life like Arnold, and I'm going to eat all my vegetables and take my protein shakes. Maybe I'll move out to California, train at Gold's Gym, and I'm going to get really big. I'm going to win contests. I'm going to be a movie star, too.
Please welcome a man whose story embodies the American dream.
One thing I learned about America is that if you work hard and if you play by the rules, this country is truly open to you. You can achieve anything.
Dude. That is a pipe dream. That is a pipe dream, okay? To get where Arnold got in life, you have to be willing to step on a few fingers and step on a few friends and fuck a few people over. You don't get to that level without that. In this world, you're either the Barracuda or you're that little minnow swimming around like this. And Arnold's the Barracuda.
And we all exercise a little bit together with the dumbbells. Come on now, let's do some presses here.
In the same year that George Bush Sr. signed the Steroid Control Act, he also made Arnold Schwarzenegger the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness. So I'm confused. Was the president saying that a former steroid user could still be a role model for kids?
You gonna exercise? Yeah! You gotta pump up muscle!
Enter Steve Rogers. Too puny to be accepted by the Army, but willing to risk death for his country. He's changing right before our eyes. Suddenly it is over. And America has a new champion.
Why do you think in America superheroes are so important?
People need heroes, whether in real life or in fiction, because they need somebody to inspire them, something to aim for, somebody to try to be like. I think any boy would want to be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Did you ever want to be big and muscular like that?
I wanted to be a little, when I'd go to the beach, I used to wish that my arms were a little stronger, you know. I looked more like the 98-pound weakling.
Did that ever inspire you, that Charles Atlas comic strip? Did that inspire some of your characters?
It inspired everybody.
Let me teach you how to become strong.
When you're young, you get impressions that pretty much last you all your life.
If you step up and show up and play hard, you're going to play.
All right, get a break.
Rock and roll, fellas. We're in the weight room.
Smelly's now a coach for the local high school football team. Kind of like Arnold, he just wants to give back to the kids.
Going to school was pretty painful for me. Oftentimes, I can find a kid who was like me, who maybe didn't have the best confidence, and show them how to lift weights and build them up physically and mentally.
He's the kind of guy who would get in your life and just totally turn it around, like, keeps me going, you know, keeps me motivated about something.
When he works with those high school kids, that's his passion. Not a lot of kids have, like, a strong male figure in their life. I mean, a lot of people, they're usually very selfish, but he's not. I mean, I've never really met anyone that's like that.
There's a gym in Columbus, Ohio, where the strongest guys in the world train. It's called Westside Barbell, and this is where Smelly learned from his role model, Louis Simmons.
I've got a philosophy like many. When you go to war, you go to kill. You don't go to get killed.
There's nobody in this place that's not trying to be the best athlete in the world. Everybody here's trying to achieve an elite level of success.
Pretty much as you're a kid, you always want to be the strongest, you know what I mean? I always want to be the strongest guy. And I still want to be that, you know what I mean? Take it up,
in 1959, my father showed me a book. It was about the Russians taking testosterone. So I said, well, what the hell? You know, first chance I got, I'm going to do some of this. And so I did. I've actually been on anabolic steroids for 36 years.
Is it something I should be morally battling, or, like, should I be fine with doing it?
Your morals are your morals, not mine. Who am I to judge you? And who are you to judge me? You want to be strong or you want to be weak?
But you can't be strong without doing steroids?
You can't be as strong as possible. If you want to reach the top, you're going to have to do it. Everybody thinks anabolic steroids is an easy way out. The people that train for anabolic steroids train way harder than people that don't. Regardless of what people think of Barry Bonds, you can't take a bottle of testosterone, put on Barry's baseball uniform, and make him hit 700 home runs. Barry's got to go out, train, and hit the 700 home runs. But what if a scientist came up with something better than anabolic steroids? You see cows, you see immense, powerful cows. They basically have changed their genes. If they could change your genes, would that be illegal? What would they do then? Just ban sports in general?
Oh, my Lord. When people see these, is the first question, how many hormones do you pump into them?
Well, it's two comments. One would be, oh my gosh, what did you do to that thing? And secondly, it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
This is a Belgian Blue Bull. 2,600 pounds. All muscle, all natural.
So tell me again, you're all natural. You're not taking anything. Dude, I think you're ready for Congress.
He has a genetic mutation that allows him to grow double muscle, and scientists have figured out how to genetically alter humans the same way. Dr. Lee Sweeney is using this technology to try to cure muscular dystrophy.
It's obviously going to become more and more evident that, what we call talent is, really genetic variation. There's genetic enhancement available that might be able to, give you what nature didn't give you. Trying to figure out how to do it in the safest way is something that hasn't been worked out.
If you find out that it's safe, would you be somebody who would say, hey, I'll do this?
Yeah, I'll be first in line.
Because it seems like this is the future of sports, gene doping.
Gene doping, yeah. I wouldn't do it.
Will gene doping ruin sports in America?
I don't think so. I mean, I think anytime there's a new technology, everyone says, okay, we have to stand back and think about what this is really going to mean to society. And I think that's the debate we will come to in the coming decades.
Good sportsmanship